There is a kind of debt that never shows up on your credit report. It doesn't have a monthly statement. No collection agency will ever call you about it. No bank tracks it. No financial advisor will sit you down and explain how much it's costing you. And yet, for millions of people, it is the single most destructive financial force in their entire lives, quietly compounding in the background, draining their future one day at a time, while they remain completely unaware it even exists. I call it silent debt, and it comes in forms most people would never think to classify as debt at all. The delayed investment you keep putting off, the emergency fund that doesn't exist, the skill you never developed because the course felt too expensive, the health you've been neglecting that will demand payment later with interest, the toxic financial habit you've normalized so thoroughly that it no longer even registers as a problem. None of these carry an interest rate you can look up. None of them appear on a balance sheet. But every single one of them is borrowed time, borrowed security, and borrowed opportunity, and the bill always arrives eventually. Stay with me through this entire video, because what I'm about to show you is not just a new way of thinking about debt. It is a completely new way of seeing the hidden forces that are either building your future or quietly dismantling it while you sleep.
To understand silent debt, you first need to expand your definition of what debt actually means. Most people define debt as money borrowed from an institution, a bank, a credit card company, a lender, that must be repaid with interest over time. That definition is accurate, but dangerously incomplete, because debt, in its truest sense, is any obligation you have created that will demand future resources to resolve. It is any gap between where you are and where you need to be, a gap that grows more expensive to close the longer it remains open. By that definition, the person with zero credit card debt but no emergency fund is carrying massive silent debt. Because the moment an unexpected expense arrives, and it will arrive, they will be forced to borrow at high interest rates to cover a gap that could have been closed gradually and painlessly over time. The person who has avoided learning about investing for the last 10 years has accumulated an enormous silent debt in the form of compounding returns never earned. Money that could have been quietly multiplying for a decade has instead been sitting stagnant, and that opportunity, once lost, cannot be recovered at any price. The person neglecting their health is borrowing against a future medical bill that will arrive with far less flexibility and far higher stakes than any credit card balance. Silent debt operates on the same fundamental principle as financial debt. The longer you ignore it, the more expensive it becomes. The only difference is that it never sends you a statement, which makes it far easier to ignore and far more dangerous because of it.
The most financially devastating form of silent debt for most people is the investment gap, the compounding wealth that was never built because investing kept getting postponed. This form of silent debt is so costly because of the mathematics of compounding, which rewards early action and punishes delay with extraordinary severity. Consider two people. The first begins investing $300 per month at age 25 and continues until age 65. At a 9% average annual return, they accumulate approximately $1.4 million. The second person waits until age 35 to begin investing the same $300 per month at the same return. By age 65, they have approximately $560,000. The 10-year delay costs over $800,000. The actual difference in dollars contributed is only $36,000, but the difference in outcome is nearly $1 million. That gap, that $800,000, is silent debt. It was never borrowed from a bank. No interest rate was ever assigned to it. But it is money that will not be there when it is needed most, and its absence will demand payment in the form of a diminished retirement, extended working years, or dependence on others during a stage of life when independence matters most. Every year you delay beginning to invest, you are borrowing against your own future at a rate that no bank could legally charge you. And unlike a credit card balance, you cannot negotiate this debt away. It must be paid, either through early action or through late consequences. The second form of silent debt is the absence of an emergency fund, a financial buffer that most people acknowledge they should have, and almost as many never actually build. Here is what having no emergency fund actually means in practice. It means that every unexpected expense in your life, a car repair, a medical bill, a job loss, a home maintenance crisis, becomes an immediate debt event. Without a buffer, you have no option but to reach for a credit card, take out a personal loan, or borrow from someone you know. Each of these solutions converts what could have been a manageable inconvenience into a high-interest debt that now requires months or years to pay off. The silent debt of having no emergency fund is the cumulative interest paid on every crisis loan, every emergency credit card charge, and every high-cost short-term borrowing event you have experienced because there was no buffer in place. Over a lifetime, this can easily add up to tens of thousands of dollars. Money paid in interest and fees for problems that a $1,000 or $5,000 savings buffer would have resolved at zero cost. The emergency fund is not exciting. It generates no returns. It sits in an account and appears to do nothing. But what it is actually doing is absorbing the financial shocks that would otherwise detonate as debt, and it is doing that job silently, invisibly, and at no cost whatsoever. Its absence is one of the most expensive financial positions a person can maintain. There is a form of silent debt that operates on the income side of your financial life rather than the expense side, and it may be the most overlooked of all. It is the debt of skills never developed, knowledge never acquired, and income potential never pursued. Every year you remain at an income level that does not reflect your actual capabilities is a year of under-earning that compounds against your financial future. And unlike investment returns, income has no ceiling. A skill developed this year can produce returns for decades. A professional credential earned now can change your earning trajectory permanently. A side income stream built over the next 18 months can eventually replace or significantly supplement your primary income. But none of that happens automatically. It requires investment of time, of money, of focus. And the decision to make that investment is one that millions of people perpetually defer. I'll take that course when things slow down. I'll work on my skills when I have more time. I'll develop that side income when the moment is right. The moment never arrives. And every year of deferred skill development is a year of income potential quietly added to your silent debt balance. The return on investment for the right skill, certification, or knowledge acquisition can be extraordinary, often exceeding any financial investment available. Ignoring that opportunity is not neutral. It is a choice with a real and compounding cost. This form of silent debt is the one most people feel most resistant to acknowledging, because it requires connecting lifestyle decisions made today to financial consequences that may not arrive for years or decades. But the connection is real, direct, and mathematically significant. Poor health is expensive, not just in quality of life, in actual dollars. Chronic conditions associated with lifestyle choices, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, obesity-related complications, stress-related disorders, generate healthcare costs that can reach tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. They also generate indirect financial costs, reduced earning capacity, missed work, diminished productivity, and the compounding effect of managing a health crisis during years that should be peak earning years. Every year of neglected physical health is a debt accrual. Every skipped medical screening, every ignored chronic symptom, every year of chronic stress with no management strategy is adding to a balance that will eventually demand payment, with interest, in a currency of suffering and financial drain that no savings account can fully offset. This is not about perfection or moral judgment. It is about recognizing that your body is your most foundational financial asset. It is what generates your income, supports your productivity, and determines your capacity to execute on every other financial strategy in your life. Investing in it is not a lifestyle luxury. It is a financial decision with one of the highest returns available to any human being. The fifth form of silent debt is perhaps the most uncomfortable to discuss, but data on financial outcomes makes it impossible to ignore. The environments you inhabit and the relationships you maintain carry a profound financial cost or benefit that operates entirely below the level of conscious awareness for most people. Research consistently demonstrates that your income tends to converge toward the average of the people you spend the most time with. Your spending behaviors, your risk tolerance, your beliefs about what is financially possible, and your attitudes toward saving and investing are all heavily influenced by the social and environmental context you live inside. If your closest relationships normalize overspending, discourage wealth building, and create constant financial pressure to maintain appearances, those relationships are carrying a silent cost. Not because the people involved are bad, but because the financial culture being reinforced daily is working against your long-term outcomes in ways you may not even be able to see from inside it. The silent debt of a financially toxic environment accumulates through thousands of small influences. A comment that discourages an investment, a social obligation that strains your budget, a collective belief system that treats financial ambition as selfish or unrealistic. Changing your environment is not about abandoning people you love. It is about being honest about the financial culture you are absorbing every day, and deliberately supplementing it with influences that move you in the direction you actually want to go. What makes silent debt so uniquely dangerous compared to conventional financial debt is the way it compounds without any external accountability structure forcing you to confront it. When you owe a bank money, the bank sends statements. The bank charges interest. The bank calls when you miss payments. There is an entire infrastructure designed to make your debt impossible to ignore. Silent debt has none of that. There is no statement for the investment returns you never earned. There is no bill for the health costs that haven't materialized yet. There is no collection call for the income potential that quietly expired over the past decade. This absence of external pressure makes silent debt extraordinarily easy to defer indefinitely, and the psychological tendency to discount future costs in favor of present comfort ensures that most people do exactly that until the bill can no longer be avoided. But here is what the compounding nature of silent debt means practically. The longer you wait to address an investment gap, the more each year of delay costs. The longer you operate without an emergency fund, the higher the statistical probability of a debt-triggering crisis. The longer you neglect your health, the more expensive and difficult the eventual correction becomes. The longer you remain in a financially limiting environment, the more deeply those limiting beliefs embed themselves into your decision-making. Silent debt does not pause while you think about it. It compounds. Every single day, whether you acknowledge it or not. The good news about silent debt is the same as the good news about all debt. It can be addressed. It can be reduced. And the earlier you begin, the more dramatically the math shifts in your favor. Here is a practical framework for beginning to identify and pay down your silent debt starting today. The first step is an honest audit. Write down every area of your financial life where you know there is a gap between where you are and where you should be. No judgment. Just inventory. Investment accounts you haven't opened. The emergency fund balance that should be $5,000 and is currently zero. The professional skill you've been meaning to develop. The health appointment you've been postponing. The second step is to prioritize by compounding impact. Which of these gaps is getting more expensive to close with every passing month? That one goes first. For most people, the investment gap and the emergency fund void are the highest priority items because they compound financially in real time. The third step is to take one concrete action on your highest priority silent debt this week. Not this month. This week. Open the investment account. Transfer $100 to a new savings account, designated as your emergency fund. Schedule the health appointment. Enroll in the course. The action does not have to be large. It has to be real. Because the moment you take that first action, you interrupt the compounding of the debt. And interrupting it is how you begin reversing it. Silent debt is the financial story that never gets told on the news, never gets discussed in school, and rarely comes up in conversations about personal finance. But for millions of people, it is more consequential than every credit card balance and every student loan combined. Because it operates in the shadows, compounds without accountability, and demands payment at the worst possible times, in retirement, in health crises, in moments of financial emergency when there is no buffer and no options. You now see it, and seeing it clearly is the most important first step there is. Here is what I want you to do right now. In the comments below, tell me which form of silent debt resonated most with your current situation. The investment gap, the missing emergency fund, the neglected skills, the deferred health investment, the limiting environment. Name it out loud. Because the act of naming it, of bringing it from the shadows into the light, is the moment it stops having power over you and you start having power over it. Hit like if this video gave you a perspective on your finances that you haven't encountered before. Subscribe if you want content that goes beyond surface-level budgeting tips and actually addresses the deeper forces shaping your financial life. Share this with one person in your life who you believe is carrying silent debt they haven't yet identified. That single act of generosity could change the trajectory of their financial future. The debt is silent, but your decision to address it does not have to be. See you in the next video.